Hey everybody, welcome to Grimsforge Gaming. Today we are going to cover 5 tips that will hopefully help you become better at PvP. Let's jump right in. Tip number 1, and this is probably the most important tip to become better at PvP and Elder Scrolls Online and any game for that matter, and life. And tip number 1 is find a mentor. And the mentor needs to be somebody that is good at the transfer of knowledge or teaching. Okay? They're not always going to be the best PvPer. They're not always going to be the 1vXer. They need to be somebody that is extremely knowledgeable and very good at coaching or teaching, very good at the transfer of knowledge. That's what you're looking for. And a lot of people, when they're looking for a mentor, they're looking to get better at PvP. I think the first thing that they do is they gravitate their eyes to the 1vXer, right? They gravitate to the guy or girl that is fighting outnumbered situations and killing everyone on the field, and they think that that person is going to teach them. And that's not always the case. As a backstory about myself here, to better explain this, I train and manage professional athletes. Some of them fight in Bellator, some of them fight in the UFC, some of them fight in bare knuckle boxing, and I travel around the world and I do consulting as well. I teach coaches, I consult coaches, I teach athletes how to manage their fight careers from the business standpoint, and then I also teach them arm bars, leg triangles, boxing, kickboxing, judo, jujitsu, all this crazy stuff, okay? And I can tell you that some of the best, most skilled fighters in the world make terrible coaches. Okay? And you take that same concept and you put it into Elder Scrolls Online. Some of the best PvPers in this game make terrible coaches. They can do it themselves, but they can't actually teach you, or they're not willing. Okay? All right? So it's important to understand this concept of what you're looking for in a mentor and what you're looking for a mentor in real life. If you want to be the best chef you can be, you'd be looking for a mentor that could help you achieve that goal. If you're wanting to be the best mechanic, you're looking for someone that can help you achieve that goal, right? You're making steps along the way, your own steps to further your knowledge, but always look for a mentor, because mentors will have experienced the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations of the journey that you are undertaking, and you can avoid some of the potholes they've fell into. And so find a mentor to become better at PvP in Elder Scrolls Online. They need to be good at the transfer of knowledge. Not always the 1vXer, and they're not always the best PvPer. And an example of what we're talking about is not always being the best PvPer. Customato, Mike Tyson's coach back in the day, and maybe this is too old of an analogy for some of you, but Mike Tyson was one of the most devastating heavyweights of my lifetime. Okay, and his coach Customato, who taught him the peekaboo style, um, fighting style, boxing style. If you think that Customato could beat Mike Tyson in a boxing fight, you're silly. Okay, yet he was one of the best coaches ever. Okay, Freddie Roach, amazing boxing coach, amazing striking coach. Can he beat some of the athletes he's training? No, he can't. But the concepts that he teaches and the transfer of knowledge and building the understanding of how to become better and what steps that athlete needs to take is what they excel at. So you're not always looking for the 1vX, or you're not always looking for the best PvPer. You're looking for someone that can educate you and make you the best you can be. All right? So you also are looking for someone in the mentor role. You're looking for somebody that doesn't just understand the class that you're trying to play as. Okay, that's very important. They need to be very solid at your class, but they also need to have a great grasp of all the other classes, both Magicka and Stamina, and what they're trying to do to you. Okay, and the reason being is you could work with one person. I could work with somebody to make them the best boxer, but the second they run into a wrestler, they're going to have problems. second they run into a jiu-jitsu practitioner, they're going to have problems. The second they run into Muay Thai, they're going to have problems. The same thing happens in Elder Scrolls Online. Okay, you could be really good at a stamina nightblade, and actually I'm going to use this as an example, but Summit 1G was playing Elder Scrolls Online for 1, 2, 3 months or whatever, and I was watching a video where he was playing as a stam blade, and he was very frustrated, rageful, and you know all kinds of negative, toxic in his chat or in his channel. And so people were actually offering him advice on how to become better, at this game. You've only played it 2 months. Maybe you've only played the Stand Blade for 1 month, and there's a lot of little nuances that you need to pick up along the way. And some had actually said this. He said, "Bro, I'm never going to be better at Stand Blade than I am right now. If I had $1 for every athlete that has walked through the door that their skill set was just next level. Like their potential was next level, but they were uncoachable. And maybe Summit should not be getting coached by people in his chat because we don't know their level of understanding. We don't know where they're coming from, you know. We don't know that. But uncoachable is a major problem. And no matter how skilled these athletes were when they walked in, their ego prevented them from being coachable, from achieving that Mike Tyson status, or whatever it is. And so when he said that, "Bro, I'm never going to be any better at Stanblade than I am right now." You've played the game for 2 months, guy. You've played the game for 2 months. And while you have amazing hand-eye coordination, and everybody that has done a hot take on you know, your videos and everything else, they acknowledge the immense potential and the skill that they're seeing there. You still have little nuances to learn about the game, not just you learning how to play Stanblade. How does a Stanblade match up against a Mag DK? How does a Stanblade fight a sorcerer? How does a Stanblade fight all these different classes in all these different scenarios with open world? How does it handle open world? How does it handle dueling? How does it handle BGs? And so while you feel that you will never be any better at a Stanblade than you are right now after 1 or 2 months of playing as a Stanblade, you still have all this other stuff that you have to learn. And so when that athlete walks in the door to me and he says, "I'm going to be the best fighter you've ever had," or whatever, and then they're not coachable whatsoever, dime a dozen. Dime a dozen. You do your best to try and coach them. You do your best to try and bring them around to the understanding that there's levels to this, right? And at some point you just gotta know when to say when as a coach. This person is a lost cause. I'm not going to be able to get them to unlock their potential because they're their own worst enemy. And if I had $1 for every time I've seen that, I'd be very rich, and it's just sad. So anyways, I see Summit 1G make that comment, and it's very frustrating to see that all this potential and all this everything, and his ego was preventing him from being coachable and learning all the ins and outs of the class. And so another thing about it too is when you're looking for a mentor, you're looking for somebody that is not toxic. You don't want people that are F this, F that, telling people to go die, and really just kind of trashing people. Get clapped, easy clap, whispering people, and just being completely toxic to the game. That's not a good mentor. If you found somebody, I don't care how good they are at PvP, if they are that, they're not the mentor for you. All right? Because all you're going to learn from them is you might be able to come up to their skill set and what they're capable of doing in a PvP atmosphere, but you're definitely going to pick up that toxic mentality. And that is terrible. The game doesn't need more toxic people in it. We have a bunch of people running around with extremely toxic mentality. The game does not need more of that. When you're looking for a mentor and you find somebody that is toxic, that stuff will pass on to you, and you don't want that. Okay? So they cannot be toxic. If they are toxic, you're going to learn that more than any skill set that you're going to pick up from them. I don't care how good they are. Another thing too is you're looking for somebody that is not an elitist. Elitists will say, "I'm the best. There's nobody better than me," and that's simply not true. There are people in this game that nobody's even heard of, and they will wipe the floor with everyone. Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, you're not looking for an elitist. You're looking for somebody because that's a trait that you will pick up too. The more time you spend with them, you will pick that up as well. Okay, and it's a negative trait. It's not a positive trait to be an elitist, to think you're the best and nobody can ever beat you, because that leads towards being uncoachable. Okay, um, and as new people meet you, if you are an elitist, that's one of the first things they recognize. Like, wow, this guy's really full of himself, or this girl's really full of themselves. They think they're the best, God's gift to PvP, and that's just not the case. You're looking for somebody that's humble and full of knowledge, okay, and willing to teach. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for somebody that has a strong grasp on what you are seeking as well. Okay, so BGs, being good in battlegrounds is different than being good in open world. Being good in open world is different than dueling. And you can talk to some of the best duelists in the game, and they'll tell you, I don't even use the same gear sets when I'm dueling as opposed to open world. Okay? Dueling is very different than open world. Like in dueling, it's frowned upon to line of sight, use your surroundings. We're both going to stand here, we're going to bang on each other until someone goes down. Okay, and there's value in that because duelists are amazing 1v1, or even outnumbered. Duelists, they play their build so well, they have such a strong grasp of their build, they can fight outnumbered. Their sustain and understanding of their classes to where they can handle multiple attackers. But dueling is just very different than open world, and the best duelists in the game will tell you that. Open world is different than dueling. I can use line of sight now. I can blindside people. They didn't even see me coming. We can ambush. We can use situational awareness or our surroundings to our advantage. And, open world being Cyrodiil or Imperial City. If it's Cyrodiil, we can use siege. How are we taking this keep? How are we defending this keep? Open world plays very different than dueling. Okay? BGs are objective based, most of them. You know, Deathmatch might be the closest to open world or dueling, right? You can have scenarios there that are similar to both those, but BGs are objective based. It require you to have a very small team, and how do I work with my team towards accomplishing the goal of the objective? BGs are no CP. Dueling is with CP. Okay, you can do either or, CP or no CP in open world. A really good mentor is going to understand all these different things, and when you come to them and say, I want to be good at, what is it? Okay, well, if you want to be good at BGs, your build needs to be a no CP type build. You need to understand that you're not going to have CP, and here's the scenarios you're going to be thrust into, and here's how we combat those for this class. And so, anyways, those are my tips. My first tip is find a mentor, and this applies to life as well. Whatever you want to accomplish in your life, find a mentor that fits these goals. They're good at transfer knowledge. They don't need to be necessarily the best at what they do, but if they have a great understanding, and sometimes you outgrow mentors. This is a very sticky situation because a lot of athletes, I find this out, a lot of athletes think that they've outgrown a mentor, and the reality of it is that their ego has outgrown the mentor. Okay, they think that they're more accomplished than they are. They start to listen to, as they have some level of success, they start listening to everyone around them, and they don't want to hear the real talk, what the coach or what the mentor or the manager is telling them. They'd rather listen to the people around them, how awesome they are. Same thing happens in games, ESO. So as you get some level of success in PvP, you might think that you've outgrown your mentor, and until another mentor presents themselves that clear cut is the next step up, you never disrespect anyone, number one, but you don't make the jump from one mentor to the other. And if you do, you always make it with a humble thank you for your knowledge, your time, your effort, um, and you move on. The thing about it is you don't want to burn bridges in real life the same way that you do not want to burn bridges in the game. And so, anyways, that's the tip number one. Find a mentor. Tip number two, decide your role and specialize in it. And so when we're talking about your role, this is something that's very important. You need to figure out what you want to be. I want to be a damage dealer. I want to be support. I want to be a tank. I want to be a healer. And in my world and how I train people, these four roles are different than one another. Some people might be like, support is tank, bro, or support is healer, bro. And actually, support has a role all to its own. Damage dealer, everyone knows what that is. It's a Nightblade that's trying to nuke you. It's a Stam DK with 7k weapon damage that's trying to DK dunk you. You know, it's somebody that can really bring the pain. A support role is somebody that's not quite a tank or not quite a healer, but they're not quite damage. So they're a mixture. They have the ability to control the battlefield with CCs, both hard and soft CCs. So they have stuns in their kit, they have immobilizations, roots in their kit, and they have some type of support abilities that can help off heal or they can off tank. Okay, they're kind of this jack of all trades. They can be, and they can lean towards one side or the other. I want to be heavy CC. I want to be heavy debuff. Okay, so support is a role all to its own. Then a tank. I'm going to do virtually no damage. I acknowledge that, and I can just stand in the middle and take everyone's damage. I'm going to soak up as much as I can. I'm going to be the front line for my team. I'm going to be the first in the door. I'm going to soak up every ultimate that they throw at me, and I'll still be standing afterwards. You know, my team sweeps in behind me and wipes them out. Okay, and then you've got the healer, and the healer can also dabble in support type abilities with CC control and debuffs and things like that as well. You won't have a healer build that has just every single slot on your action bars are going to be heals going out, right? So you should have some form of CCs there or some form of debuffs on that. And if you were to look at the spectrum of that, it's exactly like we talked about. The far left of the spectrum would be a healer, then there would be a tank, then there's going to be support, and then there's going to be the damage dealer or the DPS, okay? And this process may take some time for some people to discover what speaks to them. Okay, you're finding things out about yourself like this is an important process as well, finding out what you really want to be or what you want to do. You could be watching, this is sometimes you get the answer that you don't want. You're watching a guy 1vx kill 20 people on a 7k weapon damage DK. You put the build together, you go out into the field, and you just keep getting killed over and over again. You find yourself on your back bar way too much. You can never make the transition to trying to kill people. Whatever the different scenario is, you're not able to emulate what that person did. There was a maturation process for that person, number one. You need to know this, and they put a significant amount of time into that play style. That play style synergizes with them and what they are, what they want to accomplish. And you might find out that you're more support oriented. You might find out that, you know, I'd make a better tank. I'd make a better healer, whatever that is. And that discovery process is hard for people to get to that point and then be real with themselves about, well, I thought I wanted to be that, or I definitely want to be that. And maybe you keep moving towards being that 7k weapon damage DK that wrecks everybody. You keep making your window of education, your learning process never stops as long as you choose it not to stop, right? If you rage quit, you are done. You know, you're it's over in that moment. If you rage quit and you walk away and you give up, you quit, you are not going to get any better at it. But all of the success stories that I know, athletes that have become world champions, athletes that um, I can tell you that there is no world champion in combat sports that has had an easy road. Every single one of them, if you were to ask them about the hardest times, they'll tell you that it was not an easy path to get to where they're at, and they persevered. And that is the difference between a champion and everyone else. Because the champion perseveres. The champion continues to push through even when um, it is the odds are against them. And that's just simply the difference between a champion. And some people might say, there's luck involved too, right place, right time. No, luck doesn't even come into the equation if they're not still there. If they just walk away and quit, rage quit, whatever, there's no luck in that. Okay? Every single inch that you get in life, every single inch that you get in anything, you have to earn it. You got to fight for it. And so decide your role and specialize in it. Damage dealer, support, tank, healer, whatever role you're going to be, and instinctively what you're going to do. And sometimes in training, what I'll do is I'll talk to somebody, and I'll say, you and your buddy are team partnered up, okay? You're in a group together. You come around a corner, and there's five of another faction. There's five EP. You're, say, Imperial City. You're in the districts. And you come around the corner, and there's five EP players. What do you do first? And so what their answer is tells you instinctively where they are at. Oh, I take flight right into them. Let's go. Oh, I go back around the corner, I buff up, and then I stay behind my friend and make sure that they have heals. You know, and then all of a sudden we start finding out very quickly, just instinctively based on this little scenario of how you would react. Now, how you react to that scenario changes as your perception, your understanding of scenarios grows. How you handle that scenario changes. It's not always going to be the same, but right in that moment, right at the beginning, when you ask somebody that and they tell you their answer, um, maybe they figure something out about themselves, and that way you guys can start down the right path, as opposed to, I go back around the corner, I buff up, and then I stay behind my friend. Oh, okay, what do you want to be? Oh, I want to be that 7k weapon damage DK. Oh, okay, well, we got some work to do then, because that 7k weapon damage player instinctively would react differently right off the start, right? And so deciding your role and specializing in it, damage dealer, support, tank, or healer, and then figuring out why, what speaks to you, and how to do that. So the next thing is find your gear to complement your playstyle. And so once you decide that you want to be a support build, or you want to be that 7k weapon damage, or you want to be the healer, or you want to be the tank, you need to find a gear set that synergizes with what you're trying to accomplish. And that's just common knowledge, and why a lot of people are out there looking for different builds and on YouTube and talking to people. And so find your gear set that complements it. And sometimes the 7k weapon damage isn't the answer. If you want to be a damage dealer, the very first thing that you need to do, focus on, is be alive. And there's a maturation process with every gear setup when you get it. I see a 7k weapon damage DK just wrecking people, and I can't assume that I take his gear set, put it on me, and I'm going to do the exact same. The maturation process with that armor and the understanding situational awareness and just everything takes time. Okay? And then by chance, there might be, I'm not ruling it out that I do that and I have some level of success, more success than I was having. And maybe that's the difference in gear, maybe that's the increase in confidence. I'm wearing the same gear that so and so was wearing, so look out. And so that's a thing. So, anyways, sometimes 7k weapon damage isn't the answer, and maybe you need to lean more towards the side of sustain. And then as you start feeling good with the build, you're like, okay, time to amp up the damage, and you change your enchants, you make whatever changes to Mundus or food or whatever, and you start becoming more aggressive with the build. Sometimes being ultra tank isn't the answer, you know. And you find this out with the people that you run with regularly. So let's say you run with two people regularly, you got a small group of four or whatever, and you're running an ultra tank build. After a while, people just start avoiding you. They realize, A, this guy does zero damage, and B, it's going to take far too long to kill him when the real threats are these other three. Okay? And then what ends up happening is every single time you run into an outnumbered situation, you're the last one to die, and you're watching your friends get killed. That build or that scenario doesn't synergize well with what your guys are trying to accomplish, right? You can soak up damage when the damage is being aimed at you. But if people are avoiding you and they've recognized you as a non-threat, you're just a tank, you're not helping the team out in that moment. And so that's important to understand is the scenario that you're trying to create. I want to run with my friends, 3 or 4 people. We want to be effective as a group. Okay, so how do we be effective as a group? How do we play off each other's strengths and weaknesses and communicate and work together? So find your gear that complements that, and you'll be successful. Okay. Another thing, here's tip number 4, build on your situational knowledge. Okay, so let's recap here real quick. Tip number 1 is find a mentor. Tip number 2, decide your role and specialize in it. Tip number 3, find your gear to complement your play style after you've discovered these other things. Tip number 4, build on your situational knowledge. And your situational knowledge is how to play each role. Okay, you don't have to be good at playing each role, but if you understand what each role is trying to accomplish, and some people might be like, bro, healer's trying to heal. It's not hard to figure out. Yes, we understand that. Do you understand that particular player and the class that they're playing, what type of heals that they're trying to run right now? Do we understand, acknowledge that this guy is a tank? He's got 40k health, 50k health. He does virtually no damage. Um, you know, how do we play alongside that guy, or how do we play versus that guy? And so your situational awareness is very important. um, it's also important to be able to track the burst window, and the burst window is both offensive and defensive. The enemy, you might not know when you first encounter somebody. I don't know where their ultimate's at, okay, until their ultimate hits, right? Here comes the Dawnbreaker or whatever, okay? But let's assume that we survive the Dawnbreaker and we recover from it, okay? We now know that we have X amount of time until, say, 10, 15 seconds, 20 seconds until their Dawnbreaker's ready to go again, okay? Depending on what gear they're running and everything else. But we know that right immediately after their ultimate, that's when we would want to ult. Okay, they just expended their ultimate, and we recovered, and now we ult them, and that's our burst window. So understanding when their burst window's coming and when your burst window's coming, and how to align those to give yourself the best chance to succeed in a 1v1 situation is very important. Knowing when the burst window's coming, we're fighting 2 necromancers. There's 5 of us. And these necromancers have been kiting us around for the longest time. We've been trying to kill them, and we should know that they're going to turn and drop 2 necro ults on us, and 2 blast bones. We should know that's coming, right? We're we're most in jeopardy when we first encounter those guys, when we don't know if their ultimate is immediately available. But the longer that we're fighting them, we should definitely know the ult is coming any moment, and we could become more prepared for it. So knowing how to track the burst window of your opponent and your own burst windows, vital. Where to be and where not to be, okay, is very important, especially for BGs. We are standing in front of Purple's base, their spawn point. We just wiped Green Team. Purple's jumping down. We're in a fight with Purple right in front of their spawn point. Well, if we just wiped Green Team, what's going to happen? Green Team's going to respawn, and they're running back to the fight. We're going to get pinched. Okay? So positioning ourselves, knowing where Green is spawning from and what trajectory or path they're going to take to get back in the fight is very important. If we can avoid the pinch, maybe strafe off to the side, green team crashes into purple, helps us finish them off, and maybe purple puts a little damage into green, and then we turn around and wipe green again. Where to be, where not to be. Where to be, where not to be is also positional awareness as far as using line of sight. Um, Summit, he's on a stand blade, and one of the times that I saw him raging, he's on a stand blade in Cyrodiil, and he's fighting open field. No surroundings around him. He's got a group of 4 with him, and they're fighting open field. And I know he's trying to hop in and out of stealth and things like that, but when you're fighting a ball group or a Zerg and you're outnumbered 5 to 1, open field is not the place you want to be. Like, you need terrain. You need to be able to line of sight to relieve, give yourself some type of relieve on resources, right? Um, and so that's one of those things that comes over time, as is situational awareness, where to be and where not to be, to excel as a stand blade. So sometimes you can't disengage. His group should have been moving towards, rocks, or moving towards. You can't just stand open field. And of course, it goes the way that everyone would assume it would go. You get steamed rolled. Everybody gets zerged down. So another thing too, and I said this in another video, Cypher PK said this, and by the way, I just saw that Cypher came back yesterday or the day before. Super excited to run into him, and if you haven't had a chance to run into him yourself, do that, okay? You'll be playing against a legend in this game. But anyways, Cypher PK was one of the first people, if not the first person, to kind of echo this or say this, but he said, you don't 1vx against good players. You don't. You don't 1vx against good players, because good players understand their CCs and their cooldowns. They understand how to recover from burst, and they look out for one another. And good players are very hard to 1vx against. So a lot of the best clips are going to be of 1vx clips are going to be people that are light attacking in a general direction, holding block when they're not even really being bursted, trying to res somebody at the worst possible time. And so you don't 1vx against good players. And so when you're running into those good groups, it should be of no surprise when your 1vx fails. Okay, that was a good group. Their comp was good. They worked well together. They're in comms. Like, there's so many different variables. And when you're watching a 1vxer putting content out, you don't know how many takes it took to get to that point. How many times they had 8 hours of recording for that 4 minutes. 8 hours, 8 hours of recording for that 4 minutes. You see that 4 minutes, and they are forever immortalized as the 1vxer that is amazing. I wish you could see the other 7 hours, almost 8 hours of outtakes that they didn't post, right? And that's just a real thing. You get to see all its PvP in all its glory um, in that moment. So, building your situational knowledge, how to play each role, how to track burst, where to be, where not to be, fighting outnumbered, and especially how to fight outnumbered, where to be and where not to be when fighting outnumbered. But when you're fighting outnumbered, I have another video. I'll share it in the links or in the descriptions for you guys, and I'll see if I can pin it as one of the top comments, so that way you guys can find it. But it's just basic thought process of fighting outnumbered, and how to work together with a small group to fight outnumbered. And then CC control. CC control, or crowd control, and controlling the battlefield is very important. And basically 4 to 6 seconds, depending on the CC, you should be able to hard CC someone or stun them. Okay, and now your hard CC is on a cooldown for the next 6 seconds. And then you should be able to immobilize them immediately after they break free of that. And it should be on CC or on cooldown for 4 seconds. Okay. Well, immediately when your hard CC is off cooldown, you should be looking to hard CC them again. And your support role that we had mentioned is somebody that's their only goal in life is to just run whoever you're fighting dry on stamina, to control the battlefield and make it just an absolutely agonizing experience for them. I'm either being challenged or I'm being fossilized or whatever it is over and over and over again, and my stamina's run dry, and now I just have to sit here and eat the damage because I have no stamina to break free. Okay, and that's really controlling the battlefield. Okay, and the very last thing is surround yourself with good people. And this applies to life as well. Okay, but in this game, you need to surround yourself with good people. People that are not toxic. Okay, people that are not elitist. People that don't talk down to other people. Okay, surround yourself with good people. And you need to do that in life as well. Um, why this is important. This whole journey, this whole process, it's hard enough to make the transition from PvE to PvP. All the lessons that you're going to be learning, or the transition in Summit's case, it's hard enough to make the transition from one game to another, and bring superior hand-eye coordination, you know, but still need to learn the class, still need to learn the nuances of line of sight, what all the other classes are trying to do to you and how to combat that, where to be, where not to be, and all these things that we talked about. Okay? It's hard enough learning all this. You don't need to surround yourself with negative people that are talking down about you or making the process agonizing. You just simply don't. And I'm going to leave you guys with just a simple story that talks about that, and it more so relates to life, and you can use this for anything you do. Okay, there's a gentleman that is walking on the beach with his wife. This is a true story. He's walking on the beach with his wife, and he comes up on a crab fisherman. Crab fisherman standing here, he's casting, and he's got a bucket of crabs actually next to him. Okay, and as they're walking up, the guy that's walking up with his wife, he notices that one of the crabs is getting ready to climb out of the bucket. And he said, "Hey, sir, you're about to lose one of your crabs." And the crab fisherman, without even batting an eye, doesn't even make eye contact. He says, "Just keep watching." And so the guy walks up with his wife and he's intrigued. He's like, "Okay." And so he's watching, and just as the crab gets to the top of the bucket and is about to climb out of the bucket, all the other crabs grab a hold of that crab and pull him back in. And the guy was astounded by this. He was like, "What? What just happened? How did you know that?" And the crab fisherman just said, crabs have a natural instinct that they are never going to let anyone escape that bucket. They're never going to let another crab escape that bucket. And in life, you can find yourself in that bucket very easily with the people that you surround yourself with. If they're toxic, if they're negative, if they are elitist, if they are not good people, you will find yourself trapped in that bucket for a very long time. It's very hard to escape that bucket. And so trying to surround yourself with these good people is one of the most important things you need to do in life, because your success directly relates to the bucket you're in. Okay? That applies to ESO as well. Surround yourself with good people in this game that want to see you succeed, want to see you excel, and they cheer for you. You don't need any type of additional negativity, and you don't need any type of additional negative things affecting this journey. It's hard enough as is. The process, this whole learning process and becoming better, is hard enough as is in the game, and the same for life. Okay? So that's enough for my preaching today about that, but those are your 5 tips to become better at PvP in Elder Scrolls Online. And I try to use some of my experiences in the real world, and a lot of these things that you run into in Elder Scrolls Online do translate to the real world application as well. And that's what I love most about all this. I love educating, I love coaching, I love teaching, and a lot of these things carry over to the real world. But anyways, as a recap, number 1, find a mentor. Number 2, decide your role and specialize in it. Number 3, find your gear and complement your play style. Number 4, build on your situational knowledge. Number 5, surround yourself with good people. All right, everybody, COVID is still in effect. Everybody, please be safe out there. Spend time with your families and be safe.